Good health and well-being, the World Health Organization's third global goal that aims to be attained by 2030. It's in another decade. Frickin' hell, 2030. I'm going to be 56. Oh my God. Anyway, that was just a thought right there for you. I've got a lot of work to do. Although the main goal is centered around improving the health of millions of people, billions of people, which was doing well prior to the pandemic, today we'd like to start a conversation on mental health. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, you'll find an article on the Future Forward Hub website titled, Can Mental Health Be Fixed, Healed, or Solved? This was done with our resident contributors, Karin Monster-Peters, an energy healer with a vast background in psychology, both for human adults and human children, education, parenting, and life purpose work. And with Gareth Stubbs, a recovering drug addict, physical and mental abuse survivor, former self-harmer, who has a rapid cycle bipolar disorder, as well as has schizophrenia. Now, that sounds freaking awesome. No, just kidding. And then we have Verushka Weyers, an award-winning pediatric and neonatal nurse, passionate about the little lives being brought into this world and their well-being, as well as the moms. Don't forget about the moms. They're also there. And the parent. You know, there's another parent. There's also fathers. Anyhow, the conversation was held for the first time in September 2020, where all three contributors were brought together for the first time to converse about mental health. They'd never met one another before. Complete strangers got together, spoke about mental health. Nobody knew about the other person. And today, almost 8 weeks later, we're conversing again. Why again? Well, human beings change. What we may feel about something now may just change over time after conversing, and you may change your opinion or viewpoint. And it's interesting to see what can change and what has been evolving since then, because there are patterns and clues on how we can create change together. Now, we may disagree, but we can be kind to one another to meet each other in the middle. We are going to dive in with a short recap, with just a yes or no, beautiful people, on the main question that we had almost 8 weeks ago. Can mental health be healed, fixed, or solved? Let's start with you, Gareth. What do you think? Yes or no?
No.
Karin?
Not all.
Verushka?
No.
Oh, and everyone thought it was a yes. Come on. Oh, no. So mental health, there's this huge stigma around mental health. And I know for myself, with the contributors, when I was putting all the marketing together and doing all the wonderful words, I was going, is it mental health? It's mental disorder, mental illness, mental disorder. I didn't quite know mental sickness. One of the contributors called me out and said, actually, you know, this is just another stigma. As us human beings, we like to focus on the subject, mental health, box it and label it. And this labeling and boxing us in, it debilitates us completely. It just puts us in a box where we're like, I don't quite know how to react to this at the moment, rather than just accepting the situation of what it is. So what stigmas are you wanting to break around mental health? Gareth?
I think for me, the stigma that I want to break, especially like when it comes to myself and my own personal situation, is that I'm not a knife-wielding psycho that's going to chase you down the street screaming and shouting.
Hallelujah.
Because there is a lot of stigma based around, especially around schizophrenia. It's one of the most misunderstood mental health disorders. And a lot of people like tiptoe around it because they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to converse with the person that has it. So for me, it's just like showing people that we're normal. Inside, things might function a little bit differently, but there's no difference between you and me and the next person.
Tell me about why people misunderstand schizophrenia. Like for me, I 100% agree with you. I might not have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, but I definitely have a few people in my mind. They're alter egos or whatever, but I haven't been diagnosed. So I don't see like you as this running down with this knife and having this moment, whatever. I'm just like, it's Gareth with many other people. that are coming to visit me, and I don't know who it's going to be. So let's pull out the tea set. What's being misunderstood?
In my opinion, everyone to a certain degree has a level of schizophrenia inside of them. They talk to themselves, they have negative thoughts, they have conversations. But I'm just going to use the word normal because that's the reality of it. A normal person can 9 times out of change their thoughts or stop the conversation. With someone that has schizophrenia, like myself, I have hallucinations and I have auditory hallucinations. So I hear things that are not real. I hear conversations that I've learned over the years are not real. I cannot switch them off. The same thing like with the things that I sometimes see. They're quite scary. I'm not going to lie. They are quite scary. But over the years, when you consistently work on it, you learn how to turn them down. It's kind of like a TV. But in order to do that, you have to be relatively healthy. You have to take care of yourself and all that sort of thing. But if you look at things like movies, you know, how they always like portray people with schizophrenia, they're usually the bad guy. If you look at, you know, this is controversial, if you look at some of the shootings that take place, they're like, oh, that person had a mental disorder. It was more than likely schizophrenia because they lost the plot and couldn't control themselves. So, you know, there is a lot of that stigma attached to it because of what we're shown.
And we're going to show them something different.
Wasn't it like Son of Sam?
Pardon, Verushka?
Wasn't it like Son of Sam? But was it with the killer? He was always hearing voices, the serial killer in America or wherever he was. They made a huge thing out of it.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah, that was one of them, yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, dogs were speaking to him to kill people and stuff like that. And they said, oh, schizophrenia. So that's how people are seen or portrayed. I mean, when you told me you had schizophrenia, I was like, that's nice. Right on, buddy. So which one am I talking to now? So I just know exactly who I have a conversation with. Not be like, hi, Gareth. It's like, no, this is Matthew. And you're like, I'm sorry, Matthew. How are you today? You know, it'll be fun, yeah. You know.
After meeting Gareth, how do you want to break the stigma around mental health, Verushka?
How do I want to?
Or
communication.
Yeah. Communication, yeah.
Communication. That's why I said to Gareth, go on TikTok. It sounds stupid, but your platforms for social media is huge now. And I started like, I don't know, like you get different Tourette syndromes. I didn't know that you get different, like with schizophrenia. It was like, you hear voices and I'm like, is it 1 or 2? Is it 500 of them? Like, do you change personalities? Like, how does it work? I had all these questions more about his schizophrenia than I did about the mental health because it's things that people don't know. And then I'm like, you've dealt with it for such a long time. Share. Like, he's always putting on there, which is really, really interesting. And look, I don't have schizophrenia, but my brain is definitely losing its plot. So when you're putting on there, you're like, how I cope with today's things. I do this and this. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that. And it works. And I'm like, it can literally help anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be your mental illness. It's very calming in some of the things you're saying and what you're dealing with. I think communication for sure is key. And social media is definitely a big thing. People are everywhere on it. So I think it's fantastic.
Cool. Karin, how do you want to break the stigma?
Gareth?
No, well, Gareth. In general, on mental health.
Gareth,
bring up the bad guys.
I think mental health, it's the part of that fixing, the part about the life, like there's something going wrong when we are not mentally healthy. For me, as having a brother who's also schizophrenic, who was very violent in his psychosis, I mean, I did have a knife on my throat. It doesn't make me love him less. And to think that, oh, this person has schizophrenia and he's locked in his room all day, what a wasted life. Or, oh, he's depressed and he doesn't do anything. Oh, what a wasted life. That just like touches my core, my heart in such a way because no life is wasted. We all have purpose. We're touching lives even though we're not saving the world or on the barricades, but just by being human and being part of somebody's system, somebody's family, somebody's brother, somebody's sister, your life matters. And just because your life doesn't look the way success should be like, that does not mean that the mentally ill are not living. They're alive. They're here. They have purpose. You almost like of years of, it's not so much right now, but before they were locked away. They were put away. We don't want to see it. We don't want to deal with it. And now can see what's there, right? What's the journey of that story, of that human in this body, having this experience, going through this, touching lives in different ways. That stigma of that life wasted or unfulfilled potential. I mean, who decided what my potential was? Who decided what somebody's potential is? That soul in that body decided that. Not you, not somebody else. That is something that really, my healer heart really hurts when I hear like that around mental health.
You know, in the article, you also said 8 weeks ago, which really, it still sticks with me now, is when you speak of healing something, because a lot of people have the perception that when there's not something normal about you, as Gareth puts in inverted commas as well, that you are broken. And fixing you means that there's something wrong with you. And the healing that sticks with me now is that it's more awareness and awakening of what is actually, what missing pieces of the puzzle are there. Doesn't mean you're broken, doesn't mean that you need to be fixed. It's just becoming aware, going, oh, that piece is missing. Let me go on a journey to find it. As opposed to, oh my God, that piece is missing. Who's going to notice? How am I going to hide it? And then trying to cover it up. I can't speak English at the moment. Which it leads me, and you go down a rabbit hole. And a few years ago, maybe it was last year, I don't know, I can't remember. There was a campaign, or there still is a campaign probably, with Prince William and Kate together with Prince Harry, where they started a global campaign around mental health. I didn't really take notice of it because I was mentally, in inverted commas, I don't know, I felt it was healthy, but I was actually unhealthy because I didn't see depression as mentally unhealthy, whatever. Now, moving on a few years and listening and working on myself and becoming aware that mental health is a thing, and where the World Health Organization put out that there are 264 million people globally that are suffering under depression, and only half of the people becoming aware of it and actually seeking help, whereas the others are hiding it because they're ashamed of it. And it got me to think, because you mentioned it now as well, Karin, like depression is a terrible place to be. It really sucks you down in a rabbit hole. It sucked the life out of me. I won't even go into all of that. And I went into dark, dark spaces. And I'm sure many can relate, where I was just like, what is the point? What is the point of personal development? What is the point of actually working on yourself? Life should just end right now. It should just end right now. But the biggest help for me was conversing and hearing what other people are going through. And I was able to build my empathy and hear from there. And for me, it was breaking a stigma around mental health, that depression is part of mental health and how to deal with it. So those that are listening that have perhaps also misunderstood what mental health is and that depression is part of it, how do you want to offer those listening to deal with depression? What are things that they can do, 3 things that they can do today that they can recognize?
Recognize that they're depressed?
Yeah. And what can I do about it?
Again, I agree. Talk about it. Talk about it. Because the thing is, we don't know how dark those places can get. We don't know how dark the thoughts have become. And it's usually something that we're not very familiar with. We kind of go, oh, I'll just stay in bed today, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then I'll snap out of it. I'll snap out of it. I'll read that book and I'll go to that and, I'll snap out of it. But actually reaching out to people around you helps so much, because then you realize one thing, you're not alone. There are people listening who are willing to go on a walk with you, or maybe just even be with you in that space. Because sometimes we don't want to be fixed.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in such a dark space and people are trying to get you out of it the whole time. You're like, well, let me freaking wallow. But just the fact that somebody's there and that they're willing to listen And just to be with you in that space and you're not alone, that is already like, it opens up that energy. Because if you're just in your head, it's all in your head. You don't know until you put it out there how dark it. Oh my God, that sounded really, really dark.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, wait, I went there. Oh, but in your head, you kind of hear it, but put it out there, it's just different. So really reach out to people, have those conversations. And the next step truly is movement, Get out of the bed, get out of the bed, go for that walk, It's just nature heals. And this is not a woo-woo thing. This is just a fact. When we move our body, our endorphins and all those good feel hormones can start flowing again and can support you. A lot of the programs around depression, they always include movement. Okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to have a 5-minute walk. And then you all of a sudden you're walking 10 minutes. Oh, it's actually really nice, 15 minutes. But you're doing it and you're creating new positive experiences. You're working the body, you're moving the energy around, you're creating all these good feel hormones in your system, and that will always help. And third, really get help. Really, if it's not just something that like, okay, I will snap out of it. We need therapists, we need healers, we need these people. That's why we're here, because we know we're needed, and we're here to help. We're not there to judge you. We're not going to stay snap out of it. You already said that enough to yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. How do you see it, Gareth?
For me, the conversation is a very important one. But a lot of times when you try and talk to someone, they'll start giving you advice and that sort of thing. So my suggestion whenever I have a situation or whenever someone has a situation is to find someone to talk at. Rather than talk to. Just find somebody that you can sit down with and say, look, I just want to talk. I don't want any advice. I don't want any suggestions. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I just want to talk at you. Another thing that I would suggest is writing, because sometimes even when we talk at someone, there are things that we will genuinely be afraid to share because of our own personal stigma surrounding our mental health. I like talking, don't get me wrong, talking is very good, but in order for me to talk, I have to play a movie in my mind and watch it and then describe it to you. When I write, I play the movie in my mind, I write it and I describe it. And now the brain is amazing. I think that the brain is amazing, but it also has something that I like to refer to as simple complexity. Because when I write something down, my brain looks at it and goes, oh, it's out. I don't have to keep it in. But when I talk over and over again, like, here's something to think about. Have you ever watched a really shit movie? And then have you put it in again and tried to watch it again and hope for another one? I hope for a different ending. And then you put it in again and try and watch it again. And then you go to your friends and you say, oh, look, I know a really shit movie. Let's watch it together. That's a lot of time what happens when we talk to
That's
people.
a great analogy. Oh my God.
Can't stop laughing. That is so true.
But so for me, it's kind of like when you do the writing, what you do is you watch the movie, you write it down. That's like taking the DVD out the DVD player and putting it on the shelf. I'm never going to be able to get rid of that chapter of my life. It's a part of my life. It's a part of who I am. But I don't have to watch that movie all the time. Because then when I write things down, I can kind of like almost like look at them objectively and say, well, that's a load of crap. That's something that I can address, and that's something that I can get help with. And then the third one, like, yeah, sometimes for me, when I go through a really bad patch, the last thing I want to do is leave my house because there's just so much going on. I'm anxious. I'm paranoid, I'm worried, I'm emotional. So for me, in times like that, what I do is I make sure that I get out of bed. I make sure that I brush my teeth. Because sometimes when people are going through a depressive episode, personal hygiene goes flying the fuck out the window. So I make sure that I brush my teeth. There's a bit of Matthew coming in. I make sure that I brush my teeth. And I make sure that I change my clothes and change my environment within my internal home. And that does make a big difference because a lot of the times with people, that have mental health challenges and have a mental health illness, the bed often becomes associated with depression. So it's kind of like an anchor. So when I get into my bed, I do depression. I wallow and that sort of stuff. When I get out of my bed, I'm changing my environment, and it's kind of like from NLP terms and therapy and that sort of stuff. It's a pattern interrupt. It's like, oh, now I'm going to sit on my couch. How am I going to do depression on my couch? Because my physiology has changed. And then like Karin rightly said, like, don't be afraid to get help. There is a difference between situational depression, which can often be helped with talking therapy and things like that. But there is also you do also get clinical depression, which is a biological disorder. You need chemicals to help you get that balance back. But don't rely on the chemicals. The pills aren't going to fix you. They're going to make it more manageable. And don't beat yourself up because you have to take medication. That was one of my biggest challenges, was because I had to take medication, I wasn't managing my condition correctly. So, in the last, just over a year, I've been back on medication, and it's a lot easier to manage. It doesn't go away, but it's not as intense. And then combined with these other things and fucking putting my shit DVDs on the shelf, it makes a big difference. I shouldn't be swearing.
Doesn't matter. It happens. Shit happens. It reminds me of an interview that Lady Gaga was having, Stephanie, what's her name? Anyway, with Oprah Winfrey. She had a tour at the beginning of the year, and she spoke about this. She has mental health illness, disorder, whatever, and also takes medication to manage it. And she said the same thing. It was like, you're ashamed to actually take it because you think you can't manage it or cope with it, which is a stigma on its own. It's like, you have to be the strong one. It's like, the strong one for who? I need to be the strong one for myself, not for everyone else again. This whole people-pleasing thing again, and breaking that stigma.
I'm going to interrupt you quick. One of the highlights of my life was I was involved with Heads Together with William and Kate and Harry, and I ran the marathon for them because that Heads Together was an umbrella charity of 8 different charities. So I was a representative for Calm, which is a really great charity in the UK. But on the day that Harry and William and Kate did their interview with Lady Gaga, like when you go to a Facebook page and it has the featured videos, the featured video was Harry and Lady Gaga and me. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even take a screenshot because I'm like, do you know what? This is my memory. Nobody else is going to fucking share it with me. I got to meet them and they said my name and I'm like, all right, my life is made.
Thank you. Gareth can now leave the room.
I'm cured.
Oh God, I love it. I love it. How do you see it, Verushka? I was Verushka. For those that don't know, this is my sister. So how are you aiming to break the stigma around mental health? Especially because you deal with a lot of moms that there's postpartum depression, and straight through into, after your birth, you go from like 2,000 hormones straight down to minus 2,000, how they're dealing with it. How do you step in for them?
Sorry, let me just make sure I'm unmuted. Yeah, there we go. You know what's going to come. I usually try and prepare them. So, I know the first day they're super excited. They've got adrenaline pumping and they've got, all the medications running in. And they worried about their babies and feeding them. So I try and explain everything they have to do. By the second time, they've got, they start, having energy and they're walking around and they're doing too much. And then so I just try to explain what they're going to go through. And then I sort of explain to them what it's going to feel like. So when you have a boy, it sounds very strange. But when you have a boy, you tend to be a little bit not as hormonal, but you cry. You have crocodile tears for everything. You cry a lot. But it's more like little boys growing up kind of crying, It's not like a cry like sobbing. When you have a girl, and that's generally with boys, you cry for maybe a day. And then with girls, I usually tell the moms, please be prepared. You will be crying for the rest of your life. Because the first 3 days, you look like shit. the second day, and that's the whole day, because the whole day you're going to cry because you look like crap. The second day you're going to cry because your boobs are sore. The third day you're going to cry because you can't get enough milk. And the fourth day you're going to cry because you can't get enough milk. You look like shit. You're bloated. Your husband's not visiting you. You've got COVID in the environment. You don't have any support. And now your life is over and your baby is sick and. So I say to them always, go and shower and cry. Because if you do not cry, you will snap at people, you will be bitchy, and you'll take it out on your child. So I know when a mom is holding in her tears by the response of her baby. And it sounds weird, and it sounds like, what is this woman? She's talking shit. I know for sure, because a baby that is constantly crying and screaming when the mother holds them tells me that that mother's anxious, she's pissed off, she's upset, she's got 105 million emotions running through her, and her baby doesn't want to drink. And I'm a sister standing over her, and if I may, there are certain types of nurses in the world, and I happen to be a nice one. You do get the crappy one, and when you get the crappy one, this just adds to your annoyance and you snap. But if you get a nice one like me, which you'll be blessed to have because I'm awesome, I sort of allow you to speak about it. So then I'll say to you, your baby's reacting to your emotion. I need to know how you're feeling. What is wrong? What is bothering you? I need you to talk about it. And if you can talk about it, we can get it out. And it might not be, you get postpartum depression and you get all the kind of depressions afterwards. You've got moms who want to kill their babies. You've got moms who don't want to let go of their babies. But there's different types of depression that comes with having a baby because of the hormones that they have. And if it's a male or female. With males, your hormones are different. They're not, you tend to be a little bit more aggressive. With females, you cry. I don't actually want to lie, but they say you actually triple or quadruple your hormones because you're a female with another female's hormones in your body. And it takes years to get rid of it. That's why it takes you so long to recover from you made a baby. Like you literally made a human being inside of you, and you need to be proud of that, So my aim is usually communication. You have to communicate, and I have to ask the moms, your child, and a lot of times some of the moms really get upset because they're like, the baby's screaming so hysterically that I have to protect the babies, because a lot of times they can scream themselves into having like a pneumothorax, which is literally when they actually, like when they say they pop a lung because they're screaming so loud, they literally make a hole in their lung. Because the intensity and the pressure at what they're crying at is so high, and that's the height of the mom's emotions. So I tend to, if I pick up the baby and the baby stops crying, then they're like, well, what's wrong with me? And I'm like, nothing's wrong with you. That's not a problem. I know how to pick up your baby. I have no attachment to your child. I have no feeling whatsoever that is upsetting your child. You have other things that are worrying you and concerning you, and I need you to talk to me because I'm here for you as much as I am here for your baby. My priority is your baby. So if you're going to come in and you're going to say things, I'm going to be like, no, sorry, your baby's first. But I also need to look after the moms. And the moms and the dads play a big part in how the baby copes, basically.
How lasting? I didn't even know all of that. Now it just makes sense. Since I had my children, I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, and you got two females.
I'm still recovering.
I'm still recovering. I'm like, oh my God.
Woman.
Now I get it.
Gareth, are all your people males?
Yes. Well,
oh, thank God.
One is questionable.
Stay away from that one, Gareth. Walk away from her.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It's very questionable.
Even speaking of like what Verushka is talking about just about the women body, the hormonal system in women is just so fascinating. Yeah. It's just the fact that like men have basically one level of hormones, like testosterone, that it's pretty constant throughout their month, right? Well,
yeah.
Bodies are just freaking, the plummeting of this, that comes into your system, then that goes down, then that goes up, and then it's real. It's a real thing. When we're talking about we're talking about medication and to stabilize this and that. But this is what our
sorry, Karin, this is what I'm talking about. Now look, I'm calm, right? But then I have this that is in my face 24. I'm busy talking. Come here, you. Yeah, Maddie, you want the keys? Yeah. You see this? You see that? She has bothered me and stalked me the entire time. My depression has not come in. I'm sorry. I had to interrupt you. I apologize. But this, she sends my blood boiling. I can literally lose my mind. I'm like, I can't.
And there are things we're dealing with every single day. So it's nice, while you're talking about it, and we're talking about mental health and the stigma around it, and it's in a way nice to talk about it, but actually living it, then having the coping mechanisms. For myself, my coping mechanism was either pushing or retreating. And then I started realizing that my whole being was being led by my emotions, my whole life. So I had to realize, in order to get everything, I don't want to say under control, but I had to manage my emotions so that I didn't run away or retreat. One of the things. And just understanding the emotions and the behavior from it. That was for me, for my depression. Like you said, Gareth, it doesn't go away, but it reduced the desire to go down the rabbit hole and be stuck there. And it was more just like, oh, look, I'm in the rabbit hole, but there's ladders. I can climb out. There's actually ladders. I'm not stuck here. So there was a bit of hope that was going out there.
Yeah.
Since first meeting each other 8 weeks ago till now, so it's a month and a half, like whatever, to 2 months. What have you found since meeting each other for the first time? What have you seen in mental health globally and for yourself and within immediate circles being more prevalent that needs more attention around breaking a stigma or more focus as help?
Understanding.
Yeah, I think what I've found personally is when we first met, the courage gave me a lot of conversation.
Like your pubics.
The conversation gave me a lot of like personal courage because I was very open and I was very vulnerable with people that I had never met and didn't know. So just having the conversation with them and being so accepted really, really did help me. And I took on board a lot of the kind of like encouragement that was given to kind of like start doing stuff on social media. And what I've found with that is it just, I don't know what the right word is. It's just helped me. Karin mentioned that it's a process of healing. And for people that have like serious mental health disorders, especially when you've done some crazy, nasty things, there is a lot of guilt. So I've spent most of my life feeling like I have to make it up to everybody and feeling that I'm just thankful that I'm alive, so I shouldn't want for anything else. You know, I have scars on my arms and my legs that remind me of my last psychotic episode. It's helped me to open up a conversation. And in doing that, I don't have many followers. I don't give a flying fuck about followers, to be perfectly honest. But the amount of people that comment, the amount of people that have messaged me just saying thank you, I never expected that. Because I was so in it, and like what you were saying, just trying to manage it. Whereas there's been that subtle shift for me between kind of like managing and healing. When I allow myself to heal, I don't have to manage anything because I give myself permission to fully feel. You know, I see my social worker regularly and she constantly tells me, so did you look the monkey in the face this week or did you just put it on the shelf? You know, and that's what we do, like what you were saying. That's what we do with mental health disorders. We try and manage it, and by managing it, we're resisting it. Like nothing in the body lasts forever. Emotions are like cycles. Feelings are like cycles. They will come to an end. But sometimes because I haven't been dealing with them for so long, I feel like, oh my God, I'm going to explode. I do kind of like metaphors. And this one is quite a graphic one. Not like as in blood and guts, but like part of guts. It's like, you know, when you have an emotion, which is emotion, it's like going to the toilet. And then you don't flush, you close the lid. And then you go to the toilet again and you close the lid. And you go to the toilet again and you close the lid. And eventually it's full. That's what happens. And then just a little movement and the toilet's like everywhere. When you start to clean it up, at first it's going to be a little bit messy. And that's what happens with all that pent-up emotion that we've been trying to manage. But then once we get cleaning, we see, oh, this dirt does go away. So that for me
I
is...
thought you were talking about my daughter for a second there because she never flushes. I thought, oh, you've met my child. Oh, that's great. Wonderful.
You know, Gareth,
Probably
when
the
you
female that you wasn't sure of in your brain.
when you were speaking now, since the beginning, and when you started going on TikTok from 8 weeks ago, I keep imagining that we're in a blessed time where we have a lot of information and we're in a comfort zone. So even whilst we're speaking, we're communicating over technology and we're having interviews and there's podcasts and we're speaking to those that are listening are from an pretty much educated background. And I keep getting this image of people, I don't know why, in the bushes or whatever, in an African village or something, because there are a lot of rural areas where people have mental illnesses. They are cast out and no one can look after, you know, they don't know, I'm broken. They told me I'm broken. And they have the accessibility to things like social media on TikTok, on an Instagram, whereas it's true, the followers aren't like the big deal, but it's just someone watching that going, hang on, I'm actually normal in inverted commas. This is what I'm experiencing isn't what they think it is. And it's just in that communication and helping understanding and the education that making people aware that they heal. And it's so important that you took the first step.
Yay, I'm so happy.
And educating. And it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. And hearing words like, you know, people hear things around therapy and medicine and taking pills. And Karen's a psychologist, but also a healer. It's both sides of the coin, where you have the one logic side and all the experiments and research and stuff. But on the other side is also the emotional, physical, the spiritual, that you bring all of the sides in together. And without knowing this, you keep thinking that you're broken. I'm just broken. Like I'm not working well. And depression is just a mechanism, this game of life, whatever, life of game. Anyway, that's me.
Game of Thrones.
That gets us further. Otherwise, we're stuck in our comfort zone and we don't
But you must also think that there's not just like, I might be sitting here thinking to myself, I start watching, because it comes on randomly and you see like, okay, because I'm following now the Matthew's Diary thing.
On TikTok.
It's different. Yeah. But say you just come across it by accident, you know, because usually you get the weirdest and randomest things coming up. And then you look at it and you're thinking, oh, but I know someone who's like that. You know, this is really interesting. I'm going to go and show them. And the followers and stuff might not be, most of the time when you said you don't have a lot of followers and stuff, it's because sometimes they don't want to click on there because they're like, oh, you know, I don't really want to be like a social, because then my family sees that I'm actually like following you, and then, oh my God, then they're going to notice that there's something wrong with me. Oh no, dude, they've noticed a long time ago. You just have to accept and let them accept it. It's the same as gay people coming out of the closet, where you sort of like, I knew for years, you just like, I was waiting for you, you know, it's the same concept. So yeah, we underestimate the value of what information you put out there. And like I said, it's not like the things you're putting on there is not just applicable for your psychosis or your schizophrenia and stuff. Like a lot of the things that you put on there has helped me as well. So I'm always like eager to see, and you're like, I like this music. And I'm like, I promise you, I think I paused your thing about 500 times. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to spell this one's name. Let me check this one out. Oh, I dig this. Yeah. Oh, I see why he likes this one. This one works for me. Download. You know what I'm saying? I spent hours on your music, what you suggested. Dude, I wasn't even keen to talk. I was thinking, like my bed is my sanctuary. It's not my hole of my depression. It's just my sanctuary. Because when I'm on my bed, then it's like, this is my ship and this is my private part. It's like you can't come past the door. And there's a moat around it, and I want you all to leave me alone. And that's particularly why I'm hiding in my bedroom. Like I can't, you know what I'm saying? So this always seems to help. But I'm just at the point now where, like, I even said to Sashka, she was talking to me, and I'm like, I vented to her, my poor sister. And then she's like, are you okay? And then I just stopped. Like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Yeah. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the family. I'm sick of people. And then I know it sounds horrible, but it's just like, I'll pray for you and, you know, have faith in God. And I'm like, I do. I don't need you to keep freaking telling me that and that you'll pray for me. I understand. Great. Go pray. Do your praying thing. But then, like, fucking just tell me, look, I'll share it and show me you've shared like information about my dad because I'm angry. I'm very angry. I'm
And
breathing.
that's where it goes, anger steers a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap it up. What do we want to leave with our listeners right now? So we know that mental health cannot be fixed, healed, or that cannot be fixed.
Cannot be fixed.
That mental health cannot be fixed, healed, or solved. So what can it be?
Well, no, it can be healed because healing is not fixing. So it's a journey, like Gareth explained. He said it so well. It's process. It's the loving space that you create for it. You were speaking and you said, like, work so hard on myself. Like, those are the words that are really punishing us the whole time. I work so hard at it. No, I'm being with it. I'm feeling out. I am loving myself through it. I can love myself in the midst of this. All these words that are so much softer than all that we're always putting in. So I think you can heal it for sure because it's just so much more loving. It's a loving space. Just understand it. Become aware of your process. Talk about it. Talk at people about it. And you started asking me something, and then about the healing part. I think one of the most important things that I do as a healer myself and a psychologist and a coach is that I talk about everything that's happening in my life. If you've been in my group, if you've been in my world, I don't ever just say, now everything, now it's great. But in a month, I could be completely going like, I'm so depressed and everything's going to shit. I'm taking a break. And I allow myself that. And every time I'm thinking I'm failing my people because of that, everybody comes back with, you're such an example because you speak of it. Then we know that even the most experienced people still have their rough patches. That does not say that they're doing life wrong.
I love that. I love that.
So that's something that I really want us to, life will be life. Always. That's why we're here. It's not going to be like always this big flow of expansion. There's a lot of moments of contractions. We have to be with them, feel them out, roll through it, cry, bitch, moan. It's all part of it. Does not mean you are doing this wrong.
I love that. I love that. Gareth, Verushka, what would you like to leave with our listeners?
I think for me is that there's two things. It's like you may have a mental health illness or a mental health disorder, but you don't have to do it. You're not your condition. I refuse to be defined by my condition. I may have schizophrenia, but I don't have to do it. And the other one is self-compassion goes a fucking long way. We need to start to be kinder to ourselves. That makes a big difference. And it may be difficult at first, but self-compassion is a big contributor towards the healing process.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
Absolutely.
Verushka?
For me, I want to say, I just want to keep saying communication because I tend to keep things to myself. Like I work pretty closely with people for 7 days solid, sometimes like 14 days, whatever. And half of the people didn't know about my dad, and he was literally right upstairs. So that's 6 months of them not even knowing how I'm feeling. So I tend to keep things quiet, and you need to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to wallow, and it's okay to be upset, and it's okay to just like not want people to know. But when you feel yourself drowning, which is where I started feeling like I'm not coping now, something's wrong. Like I'm not coming out of the hole fast enough. I'm not moving fast enough the way I should be, like I usually can snap out of things. And that's when I decided to start speaking up. And that's when I started, talking to Sashka and saying to her, look, things, I'm not coping. There's problems, there's issues. I spoke to doctors and I was like, I want drugs. I need your drugs. And I'm not ashamed. I go to work and everyone's like, you're pretty happy. And I'm like, I've had Urbanol. They're fantastic. You should try some drugs. You know what I'm saying? So I have like...
On the Xanax.
Yeah, I might be like zoned out for a bit, and people are talking to me and I'm like, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you just said. I've just taken like 2 Urbanols and I don't know what you said. I don't care either. Unless
communication would be the most important thing.
You know what and people are genuinely embarrassed to talk about like a antidepressant, or I'm on this or I'm on that. And I find that if you speak about it, then they're like, oh, I'm also on that. And you're like, well, that's fantastic. It works wonderful. Go with it. Share. Be happy, be merry. And sometimes if you want to wallow. But just when you start seeing something's not right and you're not coming out of it, you need to speak to someone. You need to speak to whoever you can that you feel is not going to judge you, because there's nothing worse than talking to someone who looks at you going, because that is what just sets you in that hole even deeper. So yeah, that's the only advice I can give.
Thank you, Gareth,
Welcome.
and your troop, and Verushka and Karin. Thank you so much.
I'm feeling jealous, Gareth. That sounds horrible, but now I feel jealous. I also want to troop.
So
I also want like little cheerers,
cheerleaders.
Yeah.
We keep the conversation going. For the listeners, leave us a comment. Let us know how you feel about mental health and the stigma around it, and how you are breaking the stigma around mental health and how it's changed or impacted your life. We'd love to hear from you. And remember that this conversation is just to show you that no way is better than anybody else's way, but we meet each other in the middle so that we can learn from one another, so that we can all grow. Rather than work at something, we rather be in the situation. So for today, challenge yourself to be, wallow. Don't stay there. Give yourself permission, self-compassion, communicate, break the stigma. I want to thank you so much for listening. And remember to hit that subscribe button and keep yourself in the loop of new episodes launched weekly. And of course, head over to futureforwardhub.com and find out more about our contributors. Click the red button and follow the yellow brick road. Did you notice that? Red and yellow. And just would love to hear from you. So thank you so much. I love you lots. Thank you to the contributors, and have an awesome day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yoo-hoo! Thank you for listening to this episode. If you really enjoyed this podcast, why don't you subscribe? Hop on over to futureforwardhub.com and sign up for the newsletter. I would love to keep in contact with you about new episode releases and, of course, the live Future Forward Hub events. And, by the way, if you have a burning topic that you want to converse about, apply on futureforwardhub.com/podcast. Scroll to the bottom of the page and apply to be on the podcast. And you know what would be really appreciative? Subscribing on your favorite listening platform and leaving us a review. Let us know how we are doing. This means the world to us. And until the next episode, thank you for being a part of the community. I love you. Mwah.